What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today. We are just completed our 4th of 5 weeks for the Major 3 qualifiers. Some interesting movement this week. I think we're starting to get more clarity on where teams are ranking heading into this major. So let's dive in and rank all teams 1 to 12. And one team has also made a change we should talk about. All right, so if you are new, this is how we do it. We don't do the letters thing. I kind of do it this way. The finals bound category with the question mark is sort of your top 2 teams right now, FaZe and OPTIC. Basically, the teams I kind of expect to be in the grand final. Sunday regulars to finish top 4, basically the other top 4 teams. Or in the case of last week, I moved New York down to making progress, which are teams that I think are kind of top 6, top 8 if they get unlucky. But basically, teams I think are better than the rest. Work to do are teams that I think are not rock bottom, but definitely have some clear issues and missing pieces. Well, they're missing pieces. I don't gotta explain that one. All right, so let's start at the top. We're gonna start with FaZe and OPTIC. For FaZe, nothing too crazy in the last week. They are keeping things going, continuing to just go 6-0. They did beat Vegas on Friday. They took care of Carolina on Saturday, which I thought they played okay. Saturday match were much better on the Friday match. Either way, their map records are pristine kind of heading into this major. 8-1 hard point, 5-1 S&D, 5-1 in control. And I think if you are a FaZe fan, the 3-1 in high-res control, I just don't see the angle on how you kind of attack their control map pool. So if you are a fan of this team, they're looking good coming to the major and should get at least, I think, top 2 at this tournament. And then the other team in finals, I think had kind of a B- type of week. I don't know what to say. I mean, they still won. They beat Boston in game 5 and they beat LAG 3-1. But I think OPTIC's continuing to play kind of sloppy right now. I know they're winning these series. The only loss they have against is FaZe, so they're 5-1. But I didn't think either of the wins this week were the cleanest of Call of Duties. LAG played them pretty close in both hard points. And that Boston series, they lost the control invasion. They lost the first map to them on Karachi. I think in particular, Karachi hard points for OPTIC have been extremely poor. I mean, it's starting to kind of trend that way last stage. And then obviously they lost a couple to FaZe. But overall, I think for OPTIC, not too much to panic about now. But they got to clean things up this week and really not make these mistakes against better teams. They're going to get away with them on Thursday at the event when they play some bottom 8 team that's going to get 7th or 8th in seeding going this major. But against a Toronto or a FaZe, can't make the same mistakes they're making right now, especially in respawn. All right, next up we have the Toronto Ultra. We haven't really seen this team play a lot recently, I think because of just sort of this stupid ass scheduling that we have these days for the online stuff. I'm trying not to get too out of pocket. They took care of business pretty clean against Minnesota Rocker. The Invasion S&D, which is map 2, was kind of close. So I think S&D still definitely for Toronto. I'm not really their strong suit right now, but the respawns have been pretty good and the control has been very good. If you think about FaZe and OPTIC, if they can kind of keep the top form in control, find a way to take 3 respawns against those teams, they're going to have a chance. But right now, I think they're in a tier below FaZe and OPTIC with matches against Boston, New York coming up this week. I'm excited for that New York one. And let's transition. We can talk a little bit about New York. Obviously, I was hypercritical last week about their situation. This week, they went 6-0 map count. So we will slide them back up to Sunday regulars. Feeling much better about this team. After this week that they've cleaned up some of their issues, the S&Ds looked pretty clean, which was nice because that was a big issue in the series before against FaZe and the loss to Carolina. The Toronto match is going to be big because if you're New York and you lose that and you're 3-4, you got to hope you don't get screwed by the seeding because you might have a really tough matchup winners round 1, but they win that against Toronto and they're probably a top 4 seed. And you get a pretty straightforward winners round 1 matchup. So let's see what New York can do on that one. I'm excited to see what them and Toronto do kind of head to head here. And if New York kind of get this victory, 3 straight to close out at the 3-game loss streak in the middle is not really too bad. We're going to move on. We're going to talk about the LA Thieves. They played Boston on Sunday. So yesterday, and it was a pretty fun series. Boston did take the control, but Thieves I thought were pretty good in the other maps. The S&D high rise, well, I talked about in the flank. Boston definitely scammed that one. I think the biggest area of concern right now for Thieves, for me, is their inability to close series. And that's because they haven't won a control. I take that back. They won 1 control this entire split. They lost 4. So if they continue to struggle in control, they're not beating a top team. And they're going to lose and get upset against some bottom teams when they get to this event. Like teams that get hot in a game 5 with Thieves not putting series away. So I'm going to leave them in making progress for now. You know, they've won 4 times this split. Like, we got to respect it. But some obvious issues there. They got Seattle and Optic coming up. So it's a big week for Thieves to get some positive momentum. Otherwise, you're going to feel kind of iffy losing those two and being a little bit wobbly going to major. But they can go 1-1. I think that's good business in the final week of qualifiers. And that's a good transition to talk about Seattle. And I thought they played particularly terrible against the Miami Heretics. I thought their teamwork was awful in pretty much every map they played in that series, but they still were able to get it to go 5. But they got slammed bound in S&D high rise. And I'm going to leave them in making progress for now, but definitely concerning team. Like, I'm going to give them a pass because they've looked good teamwork wise in pretty much every series of split. So we can chalk it off to an off day. They have Thieves and FaZe. Both Thieves and Seattle are very tough series coming up here. Thieves and FaZe to run out the qualifier. They're already on 3 wins. They're in winners bracket. They can get to 5 eventually with 2 victories. But I can see a role where they end up going 3-4 this split or 4-3. We'll see what they can do this week. This tier is interesting. We're going to find out which is sort of the 5th and 6th best team, I think, after this weekend. All right, next up we have the Carolina Royal Ravens. They only had 1 match this week. It was against FaZe. They took an S&D against them round 11 on Invasion. But the first map was actually pretty fun, the Karachi Hardpoint. But after that, they got kind of whomped. Clay actually played really good in map 1, but then after that failed. And that's really the key issue for Carolina. I just think the AR slaying is sort of holding them back. So I'll leave them in work to do for right now because they still have some work to do in this split. They are 2 and 4 currently. And so they are facing off against Minnesota Rocker in a win or in a win to get in matchup for winners brackets. We'll see what they can do. For now, I'm leaving them in work to do, but I can see myself moving them down if they lose that matchup, to be honest with you. And we can transition and talk about the Minnesota Rocker. I've continued to still look kind of iffy in respawns. And we already kind of talked about the Toronto series and when they played this week. The S&D was close, but the respawns, I guess the high-rise control was close, but they made some mental mistakes on that one, some rogue plays. I just continuing to see this Minnesota team really not look great in respawns. And we won 3 so far this split. So 2 and 4 have some work to do, but they beat Carolina. They're in winners bracket. For now, I'm playing them in missing pieces because I'm not convinced this team and their comp is currently working. Lamar's not playing well. Lynn's is struggling to split. It's all pretty poor. Next up, we have the Vegas Legion, and this is a real rough week for them. Lost to FaZe, lost to New York, didn't win a map in either, and then they dropped ASIM supposedly for Johnny. So my thoughts on the move are this. Obviously, ASIM was not playing well for Vegas, which doesn't help. But really, the rest of the team was also not playing well. And I failed to see how Johnny is going to come in and kind of solve their issues. Like, I thought ASIM was supposed to come in and like bring some leadership, and is Johnny gonna do that? I don't know. Zakir is change for Vegas because I feel like it's not really going to fix this issue of this team being composed in matches, and I can kind of see things continuing to go south for them. They have Boston coming up, and they are guaranteed losers bracket, but there's a big one as far as seeding goes to kind of avoid potentially getting kind of a rough seed going this one. The 10 CDL points are obviously massive for chance qualification, but I'm gonna be honest with you, like, I'm sliding this Vegas team like backwards. Like, I'm probably putting them here. I don't know if I'll put them behind Miami. Nah, Miami won this week, so we can just do that. But Vegas, man, Vegas are on a slide, and this Johnny thing, we'll see how it goes. LAG up next. And they actually played 1 match. They lost to Optic, but they played them pretty close in every single map. Just an inability to really close, and that's been LAG's MO virtually the entire season. I mean, they're still trying to find some consistency in a hard point, but I think they're still in a position where if they can find some key maps in their pool, maybe they can do the same thing when they get top 6 at the LAN. But I'm gonna be honest with LAG right now. I feel like this might be the split where they get last, and then they're gonna be in a real difficult position going online, which has not been their strong suit all year, having to really play this qualify for champs game. So I'm a little iffy on LAG. I feel like I still take them over like Miami or Vegas or Boston right now, but it's not. I don't know. Other people are confident in LAG. I'm not really after this week. We'll see kind of how things go. The remaining schedule they have this split is just a match against Miami, so that should be interesting. And by the way, if they win that, they also make it in the winners bracket, so there's still a chance here to beat Miami and make winners bracket. But you make it in, then you're probably playing FaZe or Optic winners round 1. We'll see. I gotta give Miami respect this week. They got slammed by New York like pretty bad, and we kind of roasted them on the show. And then They put out a good one against Seattle. They're always capable of having like one of these really good wins every split, but I'm still kind of like, I don't know. They don't do it consistently enough that I really see any vein of form with this team. They've actually been pretty decent at S&D this split with an above 500 record. You know, they're still struggling with invasion right now. But high rise has been a bread and butter map for them. So I'm surprised that people are still playing them on it. Anyway, control has been terrible for Miami. But they are now still in a chance with that victory they got over Seattle to make winners bracket. So they beat LAG, which is their final match of the split. They're in winners bracket. So we'll see which one of those two gets a victory and gets one of the final seeds in winners bracket. And the last team we're going to talk about are the Boston Breach. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. We're getting close. We're getting close, and I'm going to legit add a tier to this, like called Cancun. Like I'm telling you guys now, like I'm going to kind of like mess around with these tiers after this major because they are basically in the Cancun tier right now. Like I just don't see how on 50 points right now, which have all come online, how they're going to find a way to catch up this deficit of 40, 50 points against some of these other teams. Like even though Snoopy's playing much better now, they're 0-9 in search, and you're just not going to win anything with your SDs as poor. They're kind of been actually decent in control. This split they're 4-1, which you got to give them credit for. 5-5 in hard point, but the 0-9 is pathetic. So unless they start winning searches, you're going to lose a lot of game fives, and that's really what's happened this split. They've lost 4 game fives, so real tough there. Toronto, they're not beating them, and then Vegas, we'll see. There's maybe one win left for Boston, but they're stuck in losers bracket and probably hard stuck at the bottom of the table, to be honest, for the rest of the season. Yeah, that's the tier list right here. FaZe and Optic, Toronto, New York next year, Thieves in Seattle, Carolina, and then I kind of shuffled the last tier. Not a lot of movement below and amongst the tiers. I could see LAG and Miami maybe moving up here. Minnesota as well, depending on how I feel. The Toronto-New York situation should be interesting. Like if New York get embarrassed, I'm sliding them down again. And Thieves Seattle should be a fun one. I'm just waiting for Thieves to figure out how to close because I actually think they're a decent. So that's the tier list. Excited to see what happens this final week of qualifiers. We still got a couple of winners bracket spots, and all the teams vying for those spots all play each other. So that's pretty fun. So we'll cover my predictions later on this week. I'm going to do a Q&A video next. Make sure you check out my tweet to respond to that with your questions. As always, guys, let me know in the comments what you thought of the video. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more, and we'll see you on the next one.